The FBI at the inauguration, the Democrats' impeachment, and Britain's new stricter lockdown. This is your TLDR News daily briefing for Tuesday the 12th of January. In the first story of the daily briefing today, we discuss the ongoing saga that is the siege of the US Capitol building. While this happened last week, the fallout from it is still ongoing. US law enforcement agencies worry that it's possible following the siege that domestic terrorists could strike again in Capitol buildings across the US. More specifically, they're worried that they could re-emerge in Washington on the day of the inauguration. For this reason, security is being tightened for the inauguration to try and ensure that the police are not on the back foot like they were last week. There are also currently plans for protests around the country on the 17th of January by loyal Trump supporters too, meaning that Inauguration Day isn't the only day that law enforcement are worried about. So it's possible that the Capitol building in Washington and Capitol buildings across the US could see heightened law enforcement presence in the days leading up to the inauguration. The fact that all of this is happening in the midst of a global pandemic while the president is announcing that he disagrees with the election result and refuses to go to the inauguration himself demonstrates that our wish that 2021 might be more positive than 2020 has got off to a rocky start. For our second story today, we're staying in the US and focusing on attempts to remove President Donald Trump from office. Despite there's little more than a week left until President-elect Biden officially takes over, Democrats, angered by the aforementioned events of last week, feel like enough is enough and are seeking to bring forward the end of his presidency. The first port of call is the 25th Amendment, which was created in order to set in stone a clear transition of power to the vice president in the case that a sitting president died or was very ill. However, there are calls for it to be implemented now as a way of getting rid of Trump. Although a vote on this is likely to pass today, it's unlikely to have much effect, as it would require the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to agree to betray their own leader. This brings us then to impeachment. Democrats, assuming that the 25th Amendment won't help them, have set out to hold an impeachment debate and vote on Wednesday, on the grounds that the president engaged in the incitement of insurrection. This is expected to pass the House easily, which Democrats control. But in order to remove the president, a two-thirds supermajority is necessary in the Senate, making it much less likely. There is also the problem of timing, in that a Senate trial would have to occur after Trump left office, raising concerns that it would all be a waste of time. We'll have a video out on TLDR US covering this in the coming days, so make sure you're subscribed over there if you want a more in-depth look at this topic. In the last story of the daily briefing today, we come back to the UK to discuss everyone's favourite topic: coronavirus restrictions. We all know just how important it is to have such rules, and we can get behind them, but I think you'd be pushed to find anyone who actively likes having their freedoms taken away. Unfortunately though, due to the spread of the coronavirus in recent weeks, it's become seemingly necessary to enact even stricter rules in the UK. It's becoming more and more difficult, seeing that with cases still rising and hospitals becoming overwhelmed, stricter rules won't end up being enacted. The Health and Social Care Secretary, Matt Hancock, has announced that any rule changes would not affect childcare and support bubbles that have been introduced. But aside from that, it's unclear what the future could bring. There has also been some speculation from the newspapers. The Telegraph claims that ministers have been discussing click and collect services operated by non-essential retail, and the mandating of face masks everywhere except private residences. The Daily Mail has reported that scientists from SAGE have urged the government to increase the 2-metre rule to 3 metres. It's important to stress that no official decisions have been made yet, and we'll have to keep an eye on the press briefings to see whether and how the rules are adjusted. Anyway, for those of you who think the news is too long, be sure to check out tomorrow's daily briefing. Read the newsletter by signing up at tldrnews.co.uk/daily. Listen to the briefing by searching for TLDR News in your podcast app, or watch the briefing over at youtube.com/TLDR Daily.